Hello, everyone. Today, I'm recording a session that I originally shared during the keynotes of an event that happened a few days ago. And I thought that the content would be relevant to many of you who weren't able to attend this event. And so I thought it would be a good idea to just record my session and share it with you all. And these are my thoughts, basically based on the work that I'm doing now in Google and also my experience in the data and AI space. But they are my opinion and my point of view, so they do not represent, Google's opinion or any of the opinions of the other companies that I've worked for. So in Google, my role is to help customers to build AI-powered solutions on our platform. And before then, I was working for Databricks. It's another data and analytics platform. I've also taught at the Bocconi University, which is a business university in Milan. And I started my career as a data scientist. So let's jump right in. I wanted to open with this quote, and this is really my point of view around what's the big shift between artificial intelligence and GenAI. And this is part of the reason why I joined Google specifically in this role and in this team. And that's because I think that as artificial intelligence really advanced what we can do with technology, GenAI is really what will make it accessible to anyone. And I always joke when I say that it's the first time in my life that I do a job that I can actually explain to my parents in simple terms. I can have them to go on Bard webpage and tell them, Mom, Dad, just ask it whatever you want. And they might say, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, ask whatever you're interested in. It's music for my mom, it might be tennis for my dad. And it's the first time really, thanks to GenAI, that we can bridge that gap between something technically very advanced and a tool that everyone can use. And that's the exciting part and the excitement of this sector right now, in my opinion. But it's interesting to understand what can you actually do with it. And here I wanted to give a bit of a sneak peek of our latest vision model. It's a time-space diffusion model called Lumiere. Okay, so this is just an example. I wanted to pick something very recent. So this was published probably not more than 2 weeks ago. That really, for me, explains very well or shows rather very well the advances that we've made in this space. And, I will drop the link to the blog and the paper as well so that you can read more in detail how this model is different to any other and how it will probably be the state-of-the-art model when it comes to image and video generation. But this is, an example of what GenAI can really do for us. And something that, I'm very keen really to talk about and double down on is the fact that these, like Lumiere that I just showed you, are applications. And they're kind of like the tip of the iceberg, the part that we see and that we can consume. But there's a whole world underneath that we tend not to see or really think about too much, but it's so important for our applications to come to life. And these are things like data storage. Where are we storing our data? Are the infrastructures that we are using fit for purpose? How do we process these data? Do we have a governance layer for us to make sure that only the people who have the right level of permissions can access specific data? And again, monitoring not just data quality, but also how our different models are performing. Are they performing any better, any worse once we put them into production? How do they perform throughout time? And so there's really so much that participates into creating these applications that we need to think about. And that's why, for me, it's important that whenever we speak about artificial intelligence applications, we realize that we do need a platform that can host and support these applications end to end. And within that platform, it would be great if all of our different personas have tools for them to interact or create these AI applications. So here you see an example of the GCP, the Google platform, where you can go from basically out-of-the-box solutions that you can interact with no code at all to quickly see, what are these models all about, going through low-code solutions for fast prototyping. So even for very skilled, very technical people that might just want to try out a new model, like the one I just showed you, it would be great to have a platform, and in this case, you do have it on the Google platform, that you can use to quickly prototype. And then if that model is fit for purpose, it does what you expected it to do, then you can actually invest more time and tweak it and maybe tune it, use your own data. And that takes us to, the third example, the third persona, or the third case, that is, if someone wants to build from scratch, from beginning to end, their AI application, and they want to do it from the ground up. So, I always include in my presentations this concept of a platform, because it is really, really important, because the application is just the tip of the iceberg, and you do need all of the other kind of building blocks for this application to be up and running and scalable and resilient. So, in this case, this presentation was for a group of founders, so startups and investors as well, investors in startups. And I wanted to double down on why is this important for startups specifically, but this concept can really be generalized to anyone. And the first point is that GenAI tools really make it easier to create minimum viable products. So the time that it takes from when you have an idea to when you actually have, some sort of an initial vanilla version of your products is really reduced thanks to these applications. Second of all, what I call here building knowledge faster means that if you have a tool like Bard, you can use it to learn. And you might not trust it 100%, and that's fine, but it's such a good starting point even to do research, to find the most relevant blog posts as well as podcasts, maybe books about a specific theme. And this is important both if you are thinking, if you have an idea, for example, in an industry where you might not have the skills, but you have an idea because you've identified a problem that you can solve. Well, you can familiarize with the concepts, the terminology that is used. For example, if you think of the medical sector, there might be terms that, back before these tools existed, you would need a degree to even know what they are. And GenAI won't substitute the expertise, but it can help at least being able to have that conversation with people that have the expertise, which also means that now you can broaden your horizons and think about playing in industries and in spaces that before were exclusive to people that had actually a very deep knowledge of the sector. And then thirdly, GenAI can really help us create more accessible products. And here I'm not only talking about accessibility in terms of impairment, but also in terms of, let's say you want to allow everyone who works for your company to query the data in natural language so that they can get inspired, get insights. They can very quickly see how you are doing in a specific market for a specific product. And so in that case, we are breaking those barriers that before existed between people who have the technical skills and people who don't. And this, I think, is going to be a very, very powerful tool. And that's why, I'm not the only one who thinks that this AI, GenAI specifically, can be the next big platform shift. So this is it's not my slide. It's a slide that I stole from Benedict Evans. He presented it at Slush in Helsinki a couple of months ago. And that's a very, very interesting presentation that I suggest anyone who's listening to this one. But the point here is that, yeah, we might be living in a moment where we are just starting the next wave that might last a decade. And that's super exciting. And something that I always like to think about, and I would like everyone who's starting to use these tools to also think about, is what are you building? Are you building something that is industry specific? It might be, for example, tailored to a CPG company or a media company. Or are you building something, a product, a service that is a bit more cross-functional in nature? For example, a marketing tool that anyone who has a marketing team can leverage. And it could also be a mix of the two. And there is no right or wrong here, but it is important to realize that sometimes you're building a product that is not new, but sometimes you're actually building a feature of something that already exists. So especially for startups or any company that is innovating and looking at AI to innovate, it's important to kind of plug your product or service in these two spaces metrics of, is it cross-functional? Is it industry specific? But even more importantly, are you building a product or are you building a feature? And then finally, I wanted to wrap up this very, very short presentation with three things that I think will be super interesting and relevant in 2024. So first of all, regulations, with the EU leading the way, but other countries very likely following suit, and kind of the discussion between an argument of, are we regulating too much too fast, or are we not regulating enough, and are we already late? This is going to be a topic that I'm sure is going to be top of mind and highly discussed in 2024. Second, and to me personally very, very interesting and important, is the impact on human behavior. So this is an example, the little icon that you see there from Character AI, where you can basically build an avatar, a character, something that represents a persona that then you interact with. And I think the opportunity, but also the threat of such applications of AI are, for example, think of someone who is alone, maybe struggling with mental health because they are alone, and they can really benefit from a non-judgmental persona that they can interact with. I think that's the opportunity. At the same time, if you think of a child that is feels like they don't belong, and find a friend in an AI generated or AI based avatar, and they think, I can just interact with the avatar and I can, cut myself out of reality because now I have this avatar. Well, that's definitely a threat. So we really need to think, and I hope this is going to become a topic of interest and focus in 2024 this year, on like what is the impact of what we are building on human behaviors. And then thirdly, we are going to start seeing AI applied in practice and at scale. So in this case, this icon is from a company that created a campaign bot, basically, to support one of the people participating to the US elections campaigns. And this bot called Ashley basically calls up people and asks them, do you want to know more about this campaign contender? I can tell you about what their thoughts are about security, the economy, and things like that. And so, this is just one small example of something that will be and is already being applied at scale. And I think in 2024, we will see more and more of these applications, which is great because we can actually test them, not just like a small POC, something that we play with, but actually tools that are applied and are used by everyone. And that's really going to give us, I think, a big feedback also to understand if we are moving in the right direction or not. And with this, I wrapped up. If you liked this presentation, this is, I know, super high level. It was just to basically, throw a few ideas that people can think about, digest, hopefully include in their day-to-day research and work. And I might publish other things that go into a bit more detail on some of the technicalities of AI and GenAI. But for now, I hope that you liked it and connect with me if you want to have a chat.